I think I've been fueling my runs wrong this whole entire time, and I didn't realize this until I started tracking my glucose. There's this weird feeling that I get when I'm on a run sometimes, and I've always thought it was like overtraining. I'm really tired, fatigue, muscle fatigue. It's like a drop in energy. I feel kind of shaky, and I get really hungry all of a sudden too. And I always thought it was a training issue, but turns out that it wasn't. So I wore a CGM continuous glucose monitor on my arm for an entire week just to see what happens. It wasn't random days. It was like full training days. I wanted to get kind of a full spectrum of all different kinds of days and different types of training days and rest days that I have, and what my glucose does on those days. Our brains and our bodies can be quite deceptive. We think our body's doing one thing, but it's really doing something completely else. And so I wanted the evidence. I wanted the data to look at and see what is actually happening. And as soon as I started tracking my glucose, I noticed something immediately. It was a tempo run. I was running faster, so maybe like burning more calories, burning more fuel, but I got that weird feeling, and so I checked my glucose monitor, and sure enough, it was telling me that I was completely hypoglycemic. So whatever fueling that I thought was good enough or typical to go on a run ended up not being near enough what I really actually needed for a run. At least, especially a tempo run. And something that I learned too is timing matters, because you can eat the perfect thing, but your glucose is still spiking when you start your run, and that causes problems too. It gives the wrong signals to your body on how to burn through the glucose. And so on that run where I went hypoglycemic, maybe if I had waited another 10-15 minutes and waited for my glucose to stabilize, then maybe I would have been fine. But the more runs I went on, the more I realized when my heart rate gets above a certain threshold, my glucose really does start plummeting. So at least for me right now in this season of my training, I'm like, if I'm going on really any sort of run, I'm probably gonna pack a couple of gels, because instead of taking a gel before your run or at a certain time in your run, just take tiny little bits of it so that your glucose isn't going up and down, but you're trying to keep it stable at a certain threshold throughout your whole run. And the more I'm going on runs and the more I'm kind of dialing in that process, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I could run so much farther, because now it's becoming, can your muscles handle it? And can your cardiovascular system handle it? Not, are you fueling well enough? Like, is your body running out of glucose? And that's such an easy fix that can make running, at least in my opinion, so much more enjoyable all of a sudden. Where it's like, as long as I'm fueling right and I'm monitoring my heart rate and I'm staying on target for my pace, the runs have just been so much easier and so much more enjoyable. Running is not about if you're fueling or if you're not fueling. It's about how you're fueling and when you're fueling. And I would imagine that's probably different for everybody, but I'm trying to start the fueling process maybe 45 minutes to an hour before I actually run. That's when I'll have like a rice cake or one of those honey stingers. I think I got some right here. Oh, some of these bad boys. And then when I'm on a run, I'll take a couple of these, one or two of these. That doesn't mean I'm going to eat all of the gels that I take, but just in case my body is just like burning through the glucose for some reason, I'll have it as a backup. Maybe that just psychologically helps get through the workout too. Real quick, I do want to interrupt the regular flow of this video and just let you know, because chances are you clicked on this and you never see any of my other videos, but this is part of a series where I'm doing a year's worth of training in order to run a 30-mile ultra marathon next year on my 30th birthday when I turn 30. So all of this, all along the way, if you find this interesting, if you want to see how far I get, if I achieve my goal, hit the subscribe, hit the like, it goes a long way, and follow along to see just what in the world is going to happen. All the tips and tricks that I'm kind of figuring out along the way. And if you're on a similar journey, I'd love to hear your insights, any recommendations that you have that have helped you along the way. So big lesson number one is timing your fueling before your run. I'd say 45 minutes to an hour out is going to be optimal time to get your glucose at the number that it should be, and then also for it to stabilize. Lesson number 2 is if you've been struggling on your runs and you think you can do better, you might need to be fueling a little bit more. And lesson number 3 that I learned was the diet that I've been eating, I think, is pretty solid and pretty optimal, because I did see my glucose go up and down, but the variation was actually very minimal and never went outside the optimal recommended range or whatever. So eating like that kept my glucose exactly where it needed to be pretty much all week. But there was one day, and I have to confess, I am a candy guy. I like sweets, definitely my weakness. And I got a bag of candy and what are those called? Arizona iced tea from the gas station. Couldn't help myself. And my glucose went so high that it went off the chart. It was unreadable. And of course, naturally afterwards, the sugar crash, the glucose spike, and the glucose crash. I felt it. And it's what everybody says, I guess, but it does, I saw it in the data and I felt it in my body. The sugar rush and then the sugar crash. So all that being said, I think biggest takeaway is fuel more and fuel smarter, and your workouts will feel 20 times better almost immediately. I appreciate you. I appreciate you that you watch this. Appreciate that you're alive. I'm glad that you are. And stay tuned for next week. And yeah, congrats for making it to the end of the video. That's pretty cool of you. I'll catch you later.